My name is Ben Terrell, and I'm a resident of Shawnee, Kansas. I'm a retired business research and human resources professional. 2023 marks the beginning of my 8th year as a volunteer and my 5th year serving as the legislative liaison for Convention of States Action here in Kansas. I represent over 40,000 petitioners within this state and dozens of other volunteers like myself. Thank you for hearing our testimony on this resolution today. And I'm here to answer this question. Why did we request it, and why are we taking your time? It's because we have all come to the distressing conclusion that selecting the best representatives and voting them into office at the federal level no longer secures our rights in the Constitution from the federal government itself. We find the government in Washington has, in fact, become an enemy of our liberty, and the vested interest there do not and will not permit its correction. Therefore, that you have this power has never been denied. We have found this to our great surprise and delight, that the framers of our Constitution, as Mr. Ferris just reminded us, have provided a way for us to check the powers of the federal government. The way to restore constitutional order is through you, our Kansas legislators. Named as officers in the Constitution, in the 5th article of this document, to be able to propose amendments without the consent of Congress, the President, or the Supreme Court, when 2/3 of the states call for a convention to meet and deliberate on amendments on the same subject. That you have this power, again, has never been denied. It is written in the plain language of Article 5 of the Constitution. I'm sure you have all read it. I'm holding up the paragraph here in case you would like to see that it's a very short paragraph. Kansas itself is no stranger to this process, having made 8 calls for such conventions between 1907 and 1978. 2 of those calls are still active. One from 1951 that has to do with changes to the federal taxing authority, and another from 1978 calling for a balanced budget amendment. Our own proposal has been brought to this committee several times, beginning in 2015. It has passed favorably out of this committee each time except once in 2017, and it has been voted on the floor of the House twice, once in 2016 and again last year in 2022. Each time it received over 60% of all possible votes. I have those tallies if you would like them. The reason we are here today is we're asking you yet again to exercise your authority because our government is designed for the ambitions of one part to be checked by another part. Our system of shared sovereignty is called federalism. Since you have the authority, and if you see the problems as we do, or at least even partly so, then you have a moral responsibility to exercise your authority. Just as you would expect to see an officer of the law who witnessed a theft or committed an assault to do something to restore property or peace, you also are right to expect action of yourselves in this matter. Now, some will argue that this particular part of the Constitution must not be used. That's a strange argument to me for someone who calls themselves a constitutionalist. It's too full of unknown dangers, they will say, and other federal officers should just live up to their oaths of office. Well, I say, what about the known dangers of continuing to live as we do under a federal government that is daily breaking the Constitution? And what of your oaths, ladies and gentlemen, as officers of this Constitution to support and defend it? In reality, people often require incentives to do what is right and disincentives to refrain from doing what is wrong or harmful. We may wish all we wish that all people were angels and would behave as such, but it will never be. As James Madison wrote in Federalist 51, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed. Then in the next place, oblige it to control itself. And so we ask you to use your authority, in Madison's words, to oblige the federal government to control itself by supporting and voting for HCR 5008. I will stand for questions or sit down and you can ask them later as you wish.
Very good. We'll do questions now. Committee questions. Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you in touch with the grassroots a lot? I know you know what's going on with the legislators, and I dare say you probably have a pretty good idea of how all 125 of us will vote on this issue. But what I want to know about the grassroots people, what kind of feedback do you get at that level?
The people are angry and scared. The people have been harmed by federal government abuse. And just recently, many of them have had to give up their livelihoods and their businesses because of mandates that extended through the COVID lockdown and affected their children, affected their businesses or their homes. People have seen this going on for many years without relief. My own story is that I got involved shortly after our healthcare in this country was nationalized in 2010. And I've been active in politics since then. And I hear the same form of activism, of desire for change, of using the authority that we have as citizens of the United States before it's too late. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Thomas. Representative Smith.
I think we just need to switch names. What do you think, Representative?
I apologize.
No problem. It happened in caucus this morning too. So, Mr. Terrell, thank you for your testimony. When I first learned of convention of states years ago, one of my questions was who represents the state? What are the delegates and what is the process there? Because the Constitution is silent on that. Now, I know it's important to have all these applications be similar when they're passed in each state. Has your organization, has anybody made an effort to ever say, the Speaker of the House, actually put that in the application and define who the delegates are so there's a little bit more certainty?
Thank you for the question, Representative Smith. The reason the Constitution is silent is because at the time it was written, everybody understood what the rules were. A similar example would be everyone is guaranteed to a trial by jury, and the specifics of a trial by jury are also not spelled out, as you may know, in the Constitution. As to delegate selection and the process, I'm going to let the second speaker, Mr. John Stepnoski, one of our other volunteers, go into more detail on that. But I will tell you the basics. The basics are, yes, we'd be happy to see the legislature take up a bill. In fact, there is one active in the Senate right now, SB 92, in the Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee, to work out the details of how Kansas would select its delegates to a convention and hold them accountable and communicate with them, and how many would there be and how would they vote. Those are all pertinent questions that you all ultimately have control over.
So just to follow up, since it's also silent, does each state get one vote at
Yes.
the convention? Okay.
Yes, it is a convention of states, not of something else. Yeah.
So if Kansas decided to send 2 delegates and California said they wanted to send 20, they don't have 20 votes. Each state gets 1 vote.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.